Hey guys, I am back with the follow-up to my previous video called Craft Supplies I Wouldn't Miss If I Hadn't Bought Them. This will be the list of craft supplies that I would miss if I hadn't bought them. These are things that typically have made my life a lot more easier, so it's a lot of like tools and stuff, and then also just some products that I just enjoy using. Period. So again, there are just a couple of items that are too big to fit in frame or whatnot. The first one being sort of a follow-up from the last episode, so to speak, would be 12x12 paper pads and collection kits. As I mentioned in my last video, anything outside of 12x12 paper pads and collection kits I find harder to use, either size-wise or just coordination-wise. So those are things that if I suddenly couldn't get my hands on 12x12 size coordinating paper anymore, I'd be very sad. This next one's kind of more of a storage tool than a crafting tool, but it has made my life a lot easier. One would be the 12x12 iris cases, which obviously won't fit in frame here. And then also these storage bags. I experimented with a couple different large storage bags. I was buying the extra large or something like that Ziploc bags at Walmart, not realizing that Dollarama carries a bag that's just as big. It is 13 inches by 15.6 inches, so it fits 12x12 paper. You get 6 for $1.50. That's more than what you can get at Dollar Tree. I know the one that's popular for this sort of thing at Dollar Tree, they're in the storage, like where the storage containers are, and they're 3 for $1.25 here in Canada, whereas you go to Dollarama and you can get 6 for $1.50. It's just really great for organizing paper pads, like if you've got a half-used paper pad with a bunch of scraps, throw them all in there so the scraps don't go flying. Like I mentioned in the previous video, I tore up those 180-page pads and sorted them by color, but there were a couple that actually did have some coordinating sets. There was one that was like best of recollections and one that I think was like best of my mind's eye. So it did have little like groups of paper that were from the same collection. Like the recollections ones had some from old hot buy pads and things like that did coordinate with one another. So I went back through all the loose paper that I have and pulled out the stuff that coordinates. I put them in Ziploc bags like this to sort of make a mini collection kit, just so that I had the paper that truly coordinates together and I don't have to go fishing for it in my not great loose paper storage system, and I can instead pull out a Ziploc bag full of coordinating paper and say, okay, I'm going to work with this now. So yeah, I have come to really appreciate the 12x12 iris cases and these extra large storage bags from Dollarama, just as far as helping me stay organized and keep things together. I would be even less organized if I didn't have those items. Next on my list are adhesive resistant scissors. I have 2 different pairs. I have this Westcott pair that I believe was at Dollarama for $4. I've been trying to find them again, but I've never seen them since. And then these are actually children's scissors by Fiskars that were at Dollar Tree, so they were $1.25. And I'm really rather grateful that I have these 2 pairs of scissors here. They're just very helpful for cutting through double-sided tape if I can't get it to tear, or sometimes if I'm using like scrap cardstock and I make a card front out of it to then cover with pattern paper with like say scraps from that. Sometimes the scrap will hang over the edge and then there's adhesive on the back of what's hanging over the edge. I would rather cut it with my adhesive resistant scissors than cut it with my non-adhesive resistant scissors, because then you get gunk all over your scissors and then stuff sticks to them and they get dull and gross and ugh. So I'm really appreciative of these two. Along those same lines, I really appreciate these detailing scissors. Here, I'll throw the Westcott back in for scale. This little pair of scissors is from Dollar Tree. I know they've started carrying it now under the Crafter's Square brand in the States. I don't know if they're doing that here now too. And I think you can get 2 or something in a set. They were in Canada selling them under the Forever and Time brand, so you get 1 for $1.25. And they are very useful for fussy cutting. I mean, I wish they were a little bit sharper sometimes, but fussy cutting around is very easy with these. They are actually oddly resistant to adhesive. I still would prefer to use something like this to cut through adhesive, but if I happen to hit adhesive with this, it's not a big deal. Next, I don't think I'd be able to live without a stamp positioning tool, even though I don't stamp that often. I do not have the steadiest of hands. I've mentioned that. I have trouble laying down things straight sometimes. I have trouble cutting things straight. So trying to stamp perfectly the first time doesn't usually work. This isn't necessarily the greatest tool. I'm under the impression there are better ones. I do have to struggle with it sometimes, but for the most part, I'm really happy to have this. I definitely would recommend. This one was like, I think 20 or 25 bucks at Walmart, even though it was Not something that was on my wish list. I'm glad I picked it up because when I do stamp, it really helps with stamping better than I would have freehand with a clear block or whatever. Next are my two primary paper trimmers here. They're both the 12, well, they fit 12 by 12 paper. I don't know if they're actually 12 by 12. I think this one's 9 by 12. And this one might be like 10 by 12. If I didn't have them, my paper would be cut even more crooked than it already is. I am in fact one of those people that can't even cut paper straight with paper trimmers sometimes. I picked up this one first. I also then went and picked up this Westcott one. They're both good. They were both at Walmart around the same price. I think they were both about 20-25 bucks. And I use them for different things. This one I use because there's the wire and it's clear there. You can really see exactly where the blade's going to go. So I use that for cutting out cut aparts and things like that, where you really need to see exactly where your blade is going. Whereas for general cutting, they both work just as well. And then this one also came with a score blade, which is one of the things that sold me on it, not realizing you can buy a scoring blade for this one too. Like I said, I find them good for different things. Obviously, I make my card bases on this because I can cut and score it. For more fine detail work, I use this one. They both have their issues as far as where they open when they fold open. Like this one, it folds open on the 3-inch spot, which then means until basically between 3 inches and 4 inches, you're kind of guessing where you're laying your paper down. Because like when you get to 4 1/4 inches, right, you can lie the paper straight down against the ruler so you know exactly where you're lined up to. Whereas this gap here, you kind of have to guess, so that's annoying. And then this one, I have to turn it to not bump my lights too much. There's no measurement right here with this one, with the Westcott one. So it goes to like, I guess this line, like where the silver ends, I guess that's like 3 3/4. But basically, if you want something between 3 3/4 and 4, you have to guess. And then also, as you can see, stuff is rubbing off here, which isn't a huge deal down here, but up here, can't see my numbers anymore. I should probably take a Sharpie or something to that. So that's another thing. Sometimes if I have to cut something in this faded spot, I have to use this one because I can actually see the numbers. I find them both very useful for different things. I'm glad that I have both to choose from depending on what I'm working on. Next is my good old Scotch ATG gun. This was something that I wasn't sure I wanted to invest in. I ended up picking it up, I think a year and a half ago. There was a 60% off coupon at Michael's, and I decided to take the plunge because I believe this is like $59.99 or something, or $64.99 or something like that, which is ridiculous for a bunch of plastic. Using a 60% off coupon brought it down to like $30 or $35, which makes a lot more sense in my opinion. And initially I actually hated it. I hated this when I first started using it. I found it really annoying, and it is kind of finicky to take off an empty roll and replace it. So I really didn't like it, and I was kind of regretting buying it. I picked it up primarily because I was using dollar store glue runners that when you're going through them when you're crafting lasts about 3 minutes, and I knew that that was not exactly the most financially prudent thing to be doing. I do keep a couple of the dollar store ones on hand just in case I run out of the tape, but now that I'm used to using it, I really like this. It's definitely more financially prudent again to be not wasting $1.50 or whatever it is for a dollar store tape runner every 3 minutes. Also in the adhesive category, double-sided tape, whether it be like the scor-tape brand or the scrapbook.com brand, they are fantastic. It's good for when I'm making a mini album to make sure that the paper sticks to the cardboard, doesn't come off. It's good for making sure that your signatures and whatnot stick on well. It's a lot stronger than the ATG tape. I've really come to appreciate having double-sided tape in my life. And finally, I have two more adhesives that I would absolutely miss if I hadn't purchased them. One is this Medley Premium Craft Glue. You can get it at Dollar Tree, you can get it at your dollar store with more, basically anywhere that carries the multi-craft stuff. I had heard that this glue was basically like hot glue in a bottle, and that seems to basically be what it is. Like when you pull the bottle off, you can get the strings like you do with hot glue. It's quite thick, so it's not as like messy to use, and it's also, like it says here, quick setting, and it is. I really like the speed at which it sets. It doesn't set so quickly that you don't still have wiggle room, but it also dries fast enough that you're not stuck waiting for it to dry if you're working on like more than one thing. Glue down project number 1, put it aside, glue down project number 2, and project number 1 will be ready to go, basically. It might still be wet, but it's already set, sort of thing. I just really have enjoyed using it, and I hate wet glue. I've said that before. I wish I could find it in a bigger bottle. And then also the TONBOW dot runner. It's little tiny dots instead of a flat strip of adhesive, so it works really well on like die cut items or items that have like an irregular edge or they have holes in the middle or whatever. It puts glue down on your item and not on your work surface. And if you do end up with glue in your work surface, if you're using a surface that's relatively easy to clean, it's very easy to just roll it up off the surface with your finger, and there's not very much of it, and because it's all little tiny dots, it comes off very easily. So yeah, I've really come to appreciate these. And that's it for my list of craft supplies that I would actually miss if I hadn't bought them. I hope you enjoyed. I found seeing other people's lists of things that they wouldn't miss and would miss quite interesting. So feel free to play along and do this same kind of video on your channel if you would like, or let me know in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Please give it a share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click that little bell in the corner to be notified when I next upload a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.